And hey, internets, it's Jake, and this is MTD&D Harbinger Bastards of Bastion, and we are at episode 5 of our mini-campaign, Invasive Species. And it's been a couple weeks since we've been here. I've been sick, had a couple other things that interfered for the last couple weeks, so we are back at it, and I'm very pleased to have all 4 of these amazing players joining me tonight. So we're going to go ahead and introduce each of these players in a moment, and then we're going to kind of recap previously on to catch everybody up to speed. Now, for those who are unaware of what Harbinger is a dark science fantasy campaign brought to us by the fine folks at Absolute Tabletop. It is currently in playtest, and they just released this past Friday playtest version 0.5, which added some new spells, backgrounds, origins, and a few other new things, some new monsters, which we may or may not see tonight, and a lot of other goodies. Harbinger is something that you can go to harbingerrpg.com, and you can see some of the lore about Harbinger, and you can also sign up to become a part of the playtest. So you can have a say, provide feedback, and have a say in what works and what doesn't work. But we've been playing this mini campaign, exploring some things. So we're going to get into it with the 4 Bastards of Bastion, who are at the start of this mini campaign were prisoners serving time in the Rings of Bastion. Each one of them had served for a certain period of time, and circumstances have brought them to where they are today. So we're going to go around the horn, have each of them introduce themselves and the character they are playing, and go ahead and tell us where you can be found on the internet or whatever you got going on that you want to plug. And we're going to go ahead and start with Alexa.
Hello everyone, welcome back. I am Alexa, and you can usually find me on Twitter and Twitch at BlueAlexa, and I usually play story-based games because I just like stories so much. So thanks for joining us.
And Dwight. Dwight, you're muted.
All right. That better?
There
All
you
right.
go.
So, hey, I'm Dwight. You can find me at Big Bearded Nerd on Twitter, at Instagram, and bigbeardednerd.com. I don't know why you would look for me there, though. But, yeah. So, on to the next one.
Next up is Megan.
Hi everyone, I'm Megan. I'm part of half of the YouTube channel Dice on Ice. Tonight I will be playing Cursed Soriano. So I'm excited to get back into it and see what's gonna go down in the next few minutes.
And finally, certainly not least, is Chad.
Hello, I'm the other Chad in the Absolute Tabletop group, Chad Smith. You can find me at Twitter, I guess, down here if you do that thing. Otherwise, YouTube, same thing, Chad Smith. Absolute Tabletop group. Hopefully you found us through there. Otherwise, through some of these other outlets. Otherwise, go check that out. And I'm going to be playing Orion, who is a Mancer, and I'm glad and excited to check out this new version. I've been excited for it. I think it brings some elements that are definitely worthy of the campaign. So without further ado, I'll let us get into that.
So it's been a while, so I'm going to go ahead and do one of those previously on and recap the entire campaign in brief. So as I mentioned, the 4 Bastards of Bastion each have served a certain amount of time so far, doing hard labor in the Rings of Bastion. While in transport, back after a long day of labor, themselves, along with 4 other prisoners and 4 guards, were being transported in a shuttlecraft, and they took a flyby the Harbinger, which is a mysterious alien vessel kilometers long and kilometers wide that appeared out of nowhere, shattering the moon of Verloren when it did. Bastion being a large gas giant that is orbited by numerous moons of various climates and inhabitants. In the process, they identified that there were some Skrug vessels, Skrugs being these vicious, three-eyed, four-armed creatures that are known for salvaging tech and being very brutal, that seem to have arrived when the Harbinger arrived. Well, some of them seem to be fighting amongst themselves and careened into their vessel, the transport vessel, knocking themselves and the vessel into the Harbinger itself. There were many of the guards were killed in the ensuing aftermath, either through the accident itself or possibly by some of our own bastards, who found themselves suddenly free. Yet they were trapped inside the Harbinger itself, this otherworldly ship where time, space, gravity seems to have almost no meaning. And they had to face off against some Skrugs, some Skrug crawlers, and they also found themselves facing an abomination that was an amalgamation of the 4 dead guards. This grotesque thing that the guards had melded into. In the process of escaping through this ship, they found an actual escape ship where they had to fight the remaining half of this monstrosity. In doing so, splattering blood and gore all over themselves just as they closed the door and launched the vessel. In escaping from Harbinger and flying along its the outer hull, they see themselves flying toward the shattered moon of Verloren when some bizarre anomaly, a burst of light and sound, time and space seem to have been shattered as they watch the moon of Verloren reassemble itself, the Harbinger disappear before them, and then they black out just as their ship is hurtling towards the newly reassembled moon of Verloren. There they found themselves crash-landed, Fenris nowhere to be found, the other 3 struggling to survive. One of the other prisoners, a hacker named Trinity, had also survived, and they heard her cries for help, which turned out to be actually the bait, the cry coming from a large 4-armed gorilla creature that was mimicking Trinity's voice. It brought some of them, every but one of them experienced broken limbs, experienced severe injury, some of them experienced death. But this surge of blue astra that has so far only been identified as a inhaling and exhaling sound has brought them all back from death and severe injury. With the aid of the mysterious appearance of some 10-foot tall, 4-armed creatures who bear a remarkable resemblance to the Skrugs that they know, along with the 6-limbed, sleek panther-like cats, they are rescued. Right around that same time, Fenris encounters a similar struggle fighting against some Skrugs, and is also rescued by his friends and these creatures as he crashed he awoke further along in the jungle. These creatures, who seem to be able to speak in a language they are able to understand, they seem to speak very basic language very capably. Take them back to their village, where they are all feasted. They're enjoying fruits and vegetables and meats. When one of the tribe members shows up bearing a glancer, a sort of portable computer handheld device, and pulls out a couple of Lorium vials, which are Harbinger's sort of USB devices, if you will, and inserts them in, and they begin skimming through this clear plexiglass, and the tribal chief, 10 feet tall, in regal robes, with his 4 arms, strides towards the 4 of them, holds the glancer in front of them and says, "Where did you get this image? How is it that you come to possess this?" and the image on the glancer was that of Harbinger piercing the shattered moon of Verloren. And that is where we left off in the last session, as now standing above you, primarily standing in front of you, Quinn, but all of you are kind of surrounded. Orion having primarily been lounging and eating, partaking of the food. Kirst and Fenris also finding comfortable spots. Quinn, you did have a rather harrowing sort of realization that the crash that had landed you in jail, where several people were killed and you were blamed for it when you crashed on the moon of Verloren, you realized that impossibly, seemingly, you are in the exact same spot where that crash had happened, or should we say will happen, depending on your actual circumstances. As this four-armed, previously gentle chief, now with almost anger in his voice, stands over you.
Answer me! How is it that you come to possess this?
So Quinn was she was sitting, so without moving or trying to get up, she'll just raise her hands, palms facing the chieftain, as trying to kind of calm him down, and be non-assertive or just threatening. And she will say, it's kind of difficult to explain. We are still unsure as to how we got here in the first place, so maybe we can find the answer together.
What of the rest of you? Have you anything to add to this? You!
Two of his hands point at you, Kirst.
You can see this yellow astra begin to form around Kirst's hands. She is getting ready to bolt at the first sign of any form of aggression, and she's like looking from Quinn to Fenris to Isaiah, just back and forth with these terrified eyes. I don't know where that came from. I've never seen it in my life.
He looks around, Fenris and Orion.
Have either of you anything to add?
It's the glancer. I just kind of point at it, like I'm not even really sure what he's asking.
Glancer. He seems to be trying that word out.
Orion would wipe some of the grease from his mouth, and this is really good.
You're such a helpful boss. How has the chieftain's expression or demeanor changed in any way?
Give me an insight check.
Ah, great. I'm so good at those. Okay, let's see. Okay, that's not bad. 16?
There's, as near as you can tell, and you've noticed that it's a bit difficult to read Skrug facial expressions because of their third eye stalk centered above the other two. Normally you could read the furrowing of brows or slight micro expressions, but these seem to be almost parodies of those emotions playing across the bizarre countenance of these even though they're peaceful Skrugs. But as near as you can tell, he has the sound of like a concerned parent that you found something dangerous. And he wants to know how it is that you've come by it. That's kind of the sense you get from it. The other three, I would like a perception check from you.
$14.
Nat 20. For a total of 20.
Eight.
Orion, you're just barely listening as you're shoveling food. You just have that. I see it as almost like a casual demeanor. You're almost still unaffected by, or maybe you're not taking it serious. That's up to you how you're actually, but your outward appearance is just, you're not noticing anything going on around you. Fenris, you're starting to kind of pick up beyond the chief that there's some movement happening amongst the rest of the tribe. And Kirst, you without a doubt notice that the mothers have moved their children away. And that several of the what would be considered tribal warriors, some of them men, some of them women, some of whom you recognize having rescued you earlier that day, they've sort of formed a hedge around you.
So I think with that, Kirst is like trying to warn her comrades without trying to raise the suspicion of the other Skrugs, but she probably even takes like a very cautious step back, the yellow astra around her hand just glowing even more so.
Quinn kind of just looks at the chieftain and says, you know how you called us fallen stars or stars fallen from the sky? That's what you called us earlier. I would say that the thing you're holding is also something that fell from the sky. It's definitely not of this place, apparently.
Give me a persuasion check.
$14.
Yes. We called you stars fallen from the sky, for that is where we observed you to come from. And we had arrived at that because you are not the first stars that have fallen to our world from the sky. And this thing, we have seen it. We have seen it, but we don't understand it because we don't see it now, as he gestures up with two of his arms. And in the night sky, we do not see it. Yet we have seen this vision. And all around you, you hear as the tribal warriors have formed this circle around you. You hear, well, kind of like that sound you all heard when you were previously revived. But you hear it coming from all of them in the circle. You just hear loudly, and with every exhalation, blue astra seems to be coming from them, almost as if
excuse me, almost as if, like when Frosty Breath, when you see that, but it's actually blue Astra that's coming out. And I need everyone to make... You need to make a saving throw. I'm just trying to determine. Everybody must make a charisma saving throw.
I got a 7.
9.
That's a 1, natural 1 for a total of -1.
Oh no.
It's very bad.
Quinn, you find the effect of what they are doing incredibly calming. Any fear or agitation you felt is gone. You're not in any other way under any kind of charm effect other than you just feel very... You have all of your mental faculties about you, but you just feel very calm about the situation. Fenris and Kirst, you also feel this calmness begin to... Whatever was forcing you to kind of manifest your yellow Astra, there's this... It seems to kind of undulate to a green a little bit, as it seems to be mixing with the blue. And then you just kind of feel like relaxed. Fenris, any agitation you may have felt just is calmed. Orion, you just witness everything that's happening. You don't feel any different than you did. Give me a perception check. Nope, you're just chilling and minding your own business, just kind of waiting to see what happens. And as this calming effect seems to happen, the chief looks at all of you. And he looks specifically at you, Quinn. And he says, "There are very strange things that have been happening here on our world. You and your arrival is but the latest. We don't know what this means. But we know that since you were touched upon this world, the world has touched itself upon you. We know this because you were embraced by the world as it breathed its life into you. What my people have done just now, because we are in tune with this world, what we call the breath of the world. The world infused its breath into each of you, and this is how we knew to save you, to help you. And so we hope that it is the will of the breath, the will of the world, that has brought you to us, to perhaps help us. Are you willing to accept this mantle that our world has placed upon you?
I'm going to assume that means we got to kill some stuff at some point.
That would not be my first choice, but I fear that will be a necessary choice. It is so much more complicated
than that.
Well, it's pretty much what I do, so just point me at what you need me to kill.
I feel like we don't exactly have a choice. When we're on a world that wants us to do something, you make it sound like it's a choice, but it's really not. Is it?
You are under no obligation to fulfill your destiny, to take upon the great task that the world that has touched upon you with its own breath of life. You are under no obligation. You can leave at any time.
And go where?
In what?
Look, dude, I was dead. So whatever you need me to do, I'm in.
Yeah, no, I'm in. I just want to make sure, we're being honest with each other in this.
We value honesty. As for how and where, and you begin to realize, you kind of can feel the ground rumbling just a little bit with kind of a, but there's also this rumble, almost constant rumble underneath it, and you begin to hear the sound of trees breaking and brush, and you can see just beyond the circle as some of the trees are kind of this massive creature that looks like a two-headed giant elephant with like 8 jagged tusks. There are thick vine ropes wrapped around it as it approaches, and atop it is one of these tribal warriors, and flanking it are a few more of these tribal warriors. As it begins, you see it kind of comes into view just on the edge of the village, and it's pulling the wreckage of both your wrecked ship and the wrecked Skrug vessel that Fenris was near. We are very good at putting things together. We don't fully understand these things, but we intend to put them back together for you. It will take some time. This is why we ask your help. While we help you, perhaps you can help us.
Ah, now that's what I like to hear. Perfect. That sounds like a good deal to me.
What of you? You have said nothing. You sit there with that half smile on your face, putting food into your mouth. Yet you say nothing, as he's looking at you, Orion.
He kind of smacks his lips as he's eating and kind of licks his fingers a little bit. I was gonna do it for food. You're gonna fix that too? I'm in.
And he's looking at you, Quinn. He doesn't even say anything, he just looks at you.
Quinn just leans her head back on the tree trunk that she was kind of leaning up against earlier, and she just closes her eyes and says, "This place is so peaceful. Everything is so peaceful here. I don't see how you could have any problems, but sure. Sure. We'll go have a look. Why not? What could possibly go wrong on such an idyllic planet?"
Excellent. Then we shall let the celebration continue. You will eat and you will rest. When night falls, we will take you to the heart of darkness. And he turns and walks away. And as if as if that were the cue, all of a sudden the children come back into view. People are passing food around. The tribal warriors just seem to kind of sit down and disperse as if they hadn't just performed some bizarre Astra ritual. And everything's back as it was just a little bit ago. You are free to, if you want to talk to anybody or talk amongst yourselves for a little bit before you decide if you want to rest. You'll basically have the time after you talk amongst yourselves or talk to whoever to get a long rest in before they want you to go out.
So, Fenris is going to sit down and finish his meal, but then get up and start just kind of looking around, talking to some of the guard / warrior types, trying to find out if there's what kind of weaponry or armor might be available for us, seeing as how I have a carbine and a piece of spaceship to fight with.
I can give you an axe too.
Give me a I'll let it be your choice, whether it's persuasion, intimidation, whatever. However it is that you're discussing with these guards and kind of asking around.
It's definitely cordial. I'm just trying to be nice, trying to say, hey, look, anything you can have, anything you've got would help. I'm here in a jumpsuit basically, and it doesn't really help cover up the squishy parts. So anything you guys got, I'd appreciate.
Seeing as most of these warriors are wearing little more than hide, some of them wear little more than loincloths, they kind of laugh at you when you say this about not having much on you. Go ahead and what'd you get for a charisma roll?
13.
But they kind of take to you a little bit. One of them does tell you, depending on how it goes in the heart of darkness, you may find better weapons and armor, as you say, to what you are used to. But if it interests you, you could have one of these. And they have what amounts to, in your hands, for them, they're kind of like spears. But for you, it would be sort of like almost like a pike. So they have kind of a angular head, kind of comes out, up, angles in, goes in like a blade. So to your scale, it ends up being about a 2-foot blade on the end of a pole. Yeah.
Okay. I will pass on that because Orion's right. He did give me an axe last time. So I was really more looking for any kind of armor. So
anybody else?
Before we get to go to kind of take a rest, whenever we get the chance to actually huddle together, Quinn would like to kind of ask the others in a low voice, so try and have like a more private conversation and ask just how straight are we gonna be with these guys about like that piece of technology? I mean, I tried to kind of give a non-committal answer because I wasn't sure which direction you'd like to take this, but how much are we gonna tell them about what we think happened? What do we think happened, actually? Because I just now realized that only Quinn has had that vision to maybe explain the situation. I don't know if the others have a theory of their own, because we didn't really get to talk about what happened.
One thing's for sure, you don't fly too well.
Well, they didn't exactly practice time-space continuum distortions at the academy. But I'll if we make it back alive, I'll make sure to pass it on for future cadets.
I think they come with landing gear these days.
Noted.
Anybody else talking amongst yourselves or answering Quinn?
I think we tell them as much as we need to tell them. No more, no less. I think they're hiding stuff, and we should too.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to them, but I don't think we need to really tell them anything unless they ask.
Well, they kind of asked about, I keep wanting to say imager. I don't know. I don't know why. They did ask us about the device. We didn't really tell them the truth, which is that is our present reality, whatever.
Well, they asked what it was, and I told them. That's good enough for me.
What do you guys think happened to us? Because, I mean, this is definitely in the time travel department, right? I'm not crazy, right? I'm not going crazy here.
No, based on what has happened in the last 24 hours, no. But my question is, why? Why go back? Why like, something to do with the Harbinger. I'm sure of that. Maybe. Oh, no, I'm not sure.
Also,
anyway. Oh, sorry.
You go ahead.
Anyway, and at this point, Kirst is like, she's eating like less suspiciously, because now she's quite sure that they're not going to, or she's pretty sure that they're not going to kill them just yet. So she's eating quite well, but she says, well, if they can get us off this thing, planet, moon, weird imagination thing, then that's good. We'll figure it out after that.
Well, getting off the moon doesn't get us back to our timeline, does it? So I honestly don't know how to do that. How do we get back?
My husband always said, one goal at a time. You do one thing, and then you look on to the next. That way you don't get yourself all riled up over something that is way in the future and that hasn't come to pass now. Or I guess it would have. No, it hasn't, but way in the past. Anyway, and I'm not making any sense, but no, I think that getting off this moon, that is something I'd like to do.
One of the tribes people comes up to you and just says,
if you are to be rested for your travels tonight, you should get some sleep. We have set up a hut over on the edge of the village here for you. You will not be disturbed. And they show you to a hut on the edge of the village. It's a simple hut, about 10 feet in diameter. It appears to be unoccupied. There's some animal furs that have been placed around on the floor and arranged into 4 sort of sleeping areas. So, unless you would like to go talk to anybody else or do anything else, you can get a full rest. Or you can, if there's anything else you want to do, just let me know. Everybody's just going to go ahead and try to get some sleep. So, it's full rest. Any hit points are recovered. Any spell slots or any of that kind of thing as per usual. And after a little bit, you all actually sleep a very calm, quiet sleep. In fact, it's one of those where you kind of, as you lay there to fall asleep, you don't remember drifting off. And then suddenly you feel somebody gently shaking your shoulders. And two Skrugs are standing there reaching out with their hands so each one is shaking shaking 2 of you awake, gently. And they're kind of making this awaken. I trust your sleep was restful. You look better. Please, gather any of your equipment you wish to take with you. The others are waiting in the village center.
So, Benders just gets up, heads out, doesn't really say anything, stretches a little bit and gets moving.
Kirst is going to turn to Quinn as like they're kind of getting ready. He's just gonna say, that leader guy, he was looking at you quite a bit. And I mean, I don't know what Skrugs are into, but I think he had another reason. You know anything about that?
Well... I mean, I don't think there's any reason why I should not say this, but I've been on this moon before, in our time, when it didn't look like this, when it was after the Harbinger crashed into it and just wrecked it. So I've been on this moon before, and for some reason, the chieftain kind of felt that or figured it out, or the breath, as he calls it, told him that. Given that they don't really know other timeline except their own, maybe he finds that strange, since, you know, how could I have been here before but not recognize me? So I think it's a little mystery. But he hasn't really asked details, so I guess that makes it easier on the explanations.
True. How far back do you think we are?
Would I have any sort of idea about that? I don't...
How many of you are pilots? Ryan and Quinn.
taken classes, and I did some piloting. Not my main job, but I've done some piloting.
First, give me an insight check.
$15.
Orion, give me an insight check as well. Three. Quinn, you kind of get the sense that looking around you, it's hard to tell, because even in what you know to be your present day, Verloren had always been filled with lush rainforest-like areas, jungles. Though the one thing that really seems to be missing is the teeming. It doesn't seem to be teeming with undead, with gaunts, as Verloren is known to be doing. But you get the sense that maybe you could discern passage of time by position of the stars. And so I would like you to make an astrogation check.
Seven.
It's been a while since you've studied the stars from the surface of a planet. You're used to navigating by the stars in the multi-dimensions of space. You get the sense that the positions are off, but you can't really make a determination by how much. It could be a year, it could be 1,000 years, for all you know.
I think we're pretty far back, considering that these are friendly Skrugs. When's the last time you've heard of that?
True. Thank God they are, though. And she kind of gets ready to go and heads out after Fenris.
As you all head out to the center of the village, the chieftain is standing in front of a large fire in the center. Several of his warriors stand around him, and they beckon you, the ones that awakened you, they beckon you to join them around the fire. The chieftain begins chanting when you arrive. And some of the others, the warriors all around, are keeping a beat with their breath. A sort of as he's and it's no words that you recognize. But as he begins chanting, the fire begins to change from a normal large red, orange, and yellow and white fire to the hues of blue. And as he chants, the fire begins to, its glow seems to kind of emanate out with that until it seems to be surrounding all of you. And then he sort of reaches a crescendo with his chanting. And the fire just goes straight up in a column into the air, and then goes, comes down, and just a shock wave goes and hits all of you and the warriors around you. Mancers, give me with advantage an Astra check. Treaders, give me a straight Astra check. If you're proficient, regardless of your class, you can obviously add that.
21.
5.
16.
And Cursed?
I got a 12.
Quinn, you don't have any clue what just happened, but you feel better. You feel good. The rest of you actually kind of get a sense that whatever this thing they call the breath, this Astra, this blue Astra, this was some complex spell that infused you all with blue Astra. Mancers, you recognize elements of this as similar to an emboldening presence. Or, excuse me, I think that's the right one. Sorry, spells are the one thing I'm very much not as good with. I want to make sure I said the right thing. Yeah, I was right. The emboldening presence. All of you, for an indeterminate period of time, have a +2 to your armor class. You also mechanically will be able to, at one time, treat it sort of like an inspiration die. You have a single D8 that you can add to an attack roll or saving throw. This feels like an old form of Astra manipulation, Cursed and Orion. There's something almost unrefined, yet at the same time elegant about it. You recognize the base features of the emboldening presence, but it feels different. You are now ready to journey to the heart of darkness. If, when you return, we should have your vessel ready to return to the heavens, if that is your choice. I'm not going to lie. There is a part of me that hopes that what you find in the heart of darkness will make you want to stay. But that is for each of you to find out. And he turns to his tribal warriors. Take them as far as you can, and remain for when they return. The tribal warriors all nod and thunk their spears on the ground in agreement. And then they all turn and say, "Come, we have a bit of a journey."
All right, let's go.
The tribal warriors, there's 6 of them. All of them, the smallest amongst them is 7 feet tall. One of them makes Fenris look like he's a doll version of this thing. This thing is just massive, just a hulking warrior. It's like a picture like a 4-armed Moana. He's just this huge warrior taking the lead.
You mean Maui?
Yes, not Moana. That's a little awkward. Thank you. Yes, Maui. Now I have a picture of a 4-armed hulking Moana.
As they begin leading you through the jungle, it will take us about an hour to get to the edge of the dark territory. Normally, we would ride the beasts, but no beast will go near this area. And we can only take you to the edge. We have been forbidden from entering it again.
Again? What happened the last time?
We lost some very good warriors and some good people when they journeyed in. And when they came, and suddenly the big one speaks up and he says, "They did not return. This is all you need to know. We think because you, the chief thinks, because you are," and he says kind of almost with disdain, "fallen stars. You are not of this world, that you will have a chance where we do not."
I've moved a few steps ahead of everybody at this point. I'm just turning around. I'm like, "We going?" Turn around and keep walking.
Quinn will be last in the group, kind of like keeping an eye out behind, as much as they're allowed by the Skrug guards.
Everybody give me perception.
18.
12.
10.
7.
Fenris and Cursed, you notice it a little quicker than Orion. And Quinn, maybe it's just kind of in the back of your mind before, much longer after the others figure it out. But the longer you walk, Fenris and Cursed, you notice that the normal sounds of night, though a bit bizarre because you're hearing otherworldly creatures, the further you walk, the quieter those sounds get, the more distant they get. After you've been walking about a half an hour, you don't hear any sounds of the normal kinds of night chatter from night creatures, insects and lizards and what other creatures have you. You only hear the sounds of your own footsteps and your own breathing as you journey closer to this thing called the Heart of Darkness. After about another 15 minutes, the large tribal warrior in the front, who I imagine Fenris is relatively close behind, he stops. He holds up two of his arms in a fist, like a stop motion. He makes with his other arm a gesture. And with his lower arm, he's making kind of a circular gesture. The other tribal warriors fan out. And they sort of form a corridor. As he turns to you and he says, "This is as far as we go. Come here, and you will see where you must go if you are to be our salvation." And he's actually probably about 10, 15 feet in front of you, Fenris. Kind of at the top. You realize you guys have been walking kind of up this gentle rise. And he's standing kind of at the top of that as he beckons you, the four of you, to come.
Do you go?
So, yeah, I'm gonna just keep moving until I'm up alongside him.
Yeah, same.
As you all come up along on either side of this massive Skrug tribal leader or tribal warrior, you see a false valley. I say a false valley because what you see is a long furrow in the ground where it looks like something impacted with the surface of the moon at an angle and dug this long furrow in. And it seems to be about a quarter-mile wide. Trees are pitched in every direction. Dirt and earth are churned up. This thing seems to be dozens and dozens of feet deep. And it's close to a mile long. You're standing... It looks like it actually starts about 100 yards from where you're standing. You've been taken literally to the head of the path of whatever this was. And with two arms, he gestures along this path. And at the far end of it, about a mile away, you can see a space where this whole trench seems like it kind of digs in a little bit deeper. And there's an area where this kind of purple light, like a glow, sort of forms an irregular circle, at the center of which is the complete absence of light. There is the heart of darkness. It too is a star fallen from the sky. This is where you must go to do whatever it is that the chief believes you are destined to do. We will stay here and watch for your return. If you return.
So I'll just turn to everybody and y'all ready? And then I'll just turn around and start walking.
From this vantage point, looking down in this valley, so to speak, is there any movement visible in the
Nothing.
In what? Okay. Then in that case, Quinn keeps going, but again, kind of trying to keep the rear guard.
Yeah, Chris marches forward. Oh yeah, Heart of Darkness. That doesn't look too bad, right? Just, absence of light. Oh, good. Great. This is good. She's just kind of like muttering this to herself as she's following Fenris.
As she says that, Quinn kind of just whips her head around, like suddenly remembering something. Did we have some glow rods? Did we find some glow rods at one point? I think we found some glow rods in one of the ships we crashed in.
I think you guys did. You found like 3 or 4 glow rods. We'll say you have 3 glow rods.
Yeah, we had 3. I mean, that's what I wrote down to, create some tension because there's 4 of us.
Oh. So you guys are all heading down into the trench towards the heart of darkness. All right. You, after about 100 yards, you find the where the earth was first struck by whatever it was that made this furrow. And the dirt that you're walking on has a very smooth, almost black glass-like texture to it. Between friction, heat of whatever crashed here, it turned a lot of the sand and earth to glass. And as you begin walking for another it'll probably take you about 20 minutes or so of walking along this uneven ground to get closer to this. It seems to be looming brightly. This purple glow. And it seems weird to call a absence of light bright. But it seems to be growing with more presence as you grow closer. Are you guys doing anything to prepare yourselves more as you grow closer? Or just kind of charging right towards it?
I'll have the carbine drawn. I won't say I'm charging, but I'm hiking in that direction, trying to stay aware as best as possible. Not really trying to be stealthy. It's usually we're kind of out in the open a little bit anyways. So, but yeah, definitely trying to be aware of what's going on.
I'm gonna assume that Quinn is just gonna, as we approach the heart, so I'm gonna say that she will ask Cursed, so how about we split those rods in some way, because I don't know what's gonna happen inside. Maybe we won't have time to do that in the heat of battle, if I'm assuming it's gonna happen at one point. And all along the path, Quinn will kind of have looked around to see if there's any debris or any sort of pieces of anything that would indicate the nature of whatever it is that crashed here.
You find no debris, no foreign matter as you approach. As you all continue on, you get within about 50 feet of this massive opening. And as you're here, this opening seems to have been growing ever more. The earth behind it is just churned up high above. This opening is about 60 feet in diameter. And you can now see that this absence of light, this blackness, the only reason you can see that it's an opening is there seems to be this is the first presence of anything that you don't know if it's foreign, because you don't know necessarily what grows around here, but there seems to be a bioluminescent purple something growing or clinging around the complete perimeter of this nearly perfect circle. And the purple illumination seems to kind of go inward a little bit, reflect in enough to give a sense of depth. As you grow closer, I would like each of you to make a wisdom saving throw.
$11.
That's a 20.
You get a 20. You got a 1, Cursed?
Yep.
I thought you said 20 when Orion did. Quinn?
14.
Okay. Fenris. Actually, Cursed. We're going to go to you first with your 1. You see, as you get within about 20 or 30 feet of where this seems to kind of open up, you see dead bodies. Pieces of dead bodies. They almost seem to kind of shimmer in front of you like an illusion. But the longer you look, the more they seem to coalesce into that last violent scene you saw before you were incarcerated. What is that? What do you see?
Playing the last violent scene before Cursed had blacked out to be woken up by those who would arrest her and incarcerate her was the bloodied and mangled corpse of her husband. Ripped piece by piece. Blood everywhere, all over. She didn't know that there could be so much blood. And that's what she would see laying there, is just this the last image that she had.
All right. Roll me a D100. Just don't tell me what it is yet. Just roll it and hold on to it. Quinn, you impossibly see the scene of the wreckage again. You see strewn all about the opening here the bodies of those who were under your charge. What's going through your head as you see this? It doesn't appear illusory. It seems to you as if the purple light has just suddenly shown that the crash scene is here. All but the vehicle itself. Just the bodies. What's going through your head and what do you see?
It's the vision is not necessarily what's troubling, because I mean, she's seen, you know, combat situations where things have gone wrong, or she's seen violence before. It's more the feeling of the situation, and that's a feeling of helplessness and just fear, just absolute fear, because this is, I mean, they were a group of highly trained individuals in this that didn't count for anything in this place. And there's fear and just the feeling that she has failed everyone and just waiting for whatever happened to come for her as well. And kind of like disappointment in herself that she's hoping beyond all hope that that ending will not come to pass. So that's the general feeling of the situation, but everything is at this point tinged with some confusion and just kind of like she's unsure of what reality is at this point, because she's already seen this. This is the second time in 24 hours that she's seen this, and it's just kind of starting to wonder which is real, if anything. Maybe the whole sentence in prison has been a dream and she never really left Verloren after all. Maybe it's a dream within a dream. Who knows at this point?
All right. I need you to also roll a D100 and hold on to that result. And finally, Fenris, you see lying on the ground before you. You almost miss it. You're almost about to step in the blood as you look down and you see the victims of the crime for which you were committed, or for which you were incarcerated. Tell us what you see.
So as I'm walking, I look down right as I'm tripping over these two pairs of tiny feet, almost exactly like I almost tripped on them the first time that I saw them. And I look down and I see what looks to be a twin boy and twin girl, lying next to each other, severely beaten and stabbed, and I immediately drop to the ground and reach out to them just as I did that time before, and but catch myself as it dawns on me that this clearly can't be happening again. It's already happened once, and I start to choke on the tears that are kind of welling up inside of me, and I stand up and I just start to look around for anything else that's in the area.
Orion, you see the bodies of 4 dead Skrug tribal members. Their skin decomposing, their skulls and their bones showing through. They've been here for a while. Two of them appear to be ripped in half. What are you thinking?
It's probably gonna like nudge one of the 4 halves with one of his feet, kind of like kick it a little bit, and think like that must be the original team, or the last team, one of the last teams that they sent in, and that doesn't look like it went too well for them.
All around you, you see Cursed looking with a play of emotions across her face at these dead bodies. Fenris appears to almost reach down for one of them, and you see tears in his eyes. Quinn seems to kind of just stand there in a daze, just not really sure. Kind of, you see her looking like skeptical and in doubt as she looks around. Cursed, what did you roll for your D100?
I rolled an 11.
All right. You, for a period of time that I will tell you when it's no longer in effect, you are at disadvantage on all ability checks. You will also be prone to other effects that will be revealed. Quinn, what did you roll?
100.
Oh no.
Oh,
I thought it's random. It doesn't go up or down, right? That's not relevant at all.
Usually they put the bad ones at the top of the list.
This is true.
Awesome.
Quinn, describe, as you're looking over the scene and you're battling in your mind, what is it that pushes you over the edge and causes you to lose consciousness?
It's the fact that it's the fact that the worst outcome, the worst fate of my former comrades is not death. It's the fact that they get up, not themselves, and come at me, and that just throws me just throws Quinn entirely because she's just frozen with. She can't strike them down. It's too fresh. They were just talking to her like a few minutes ago. It's not happening.
And Quinn suddenly drops to her knees and then collapses sideways, unconscious, next to you, Orion. Fenris, what did you roll?
You didn't ask me to, so.
Oh, roll a D100. Sorry, everybody's rolling a D100 except for Orion, who passed the wisdom save.
66.
All right. In the aftermath of seeing this vision that's so vivid and real, yet you're doubting that it can be real because it already happened, you begin to experience tremors. Your hands will suddenly start to shake. You develop a bit of a tic, almost like just kind of a little muscle spasms. And this is going to cause you to have disadvantage on any attack, ability check, or saving throw that involves strength or dexterity.
Attacks and what else?
Attacks, ability checks, and saving throws that involve strength or dexterity.
Okay.
And Quinn has suddenly fallen unconscious next to all of you. Orion, I want you to react to that first, since you're the only one that seems to have maintained your presence of mind.
I don't think he would see her at first, but then he would hear her fall over. And he'd look over, confused, and then he'd walk over and snap out of it, foolish. And he'd start snapping, and you'd see red static of Astra sparking off of his fingers, and then he'd get closer, and it's clapping, and then he'd like shake her. What's gotten into you, girl?
Nothing is having any effect on waking Quinn.
I'd look over and see the tears in Fenris's eyes. What's gotten into you, man?
I'm not going to talk about it.
Help me with this one.
Is she out cold? Not waking up?
I'd shake her some more.
Right, and Fenris will reach down and pick her up and just sling her over my shoulder.
Where are you at, Miss Woman? I'd turn and look at Kirst.
Kirst is almost just catatonic, just kind of staring with these wide eyes at one of the bodies. And just kind of like, it doesn't even look like she's breathing. It almost looks like she is just a statue, just staring.
Yoo-hoo. Hello.
Cursed. The torn, dismembered body of your husband that you see lying on the ground twists its head, half-damaged face towards you. Why are you here? What are you doing?
I tried to come back. I didn't know that this was gonna go so badly. I thought that I didn't know what they would do to you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
You always fuck it up. Orion, as Kirsta seems to be babbling incoherently at these dead bodies, you watch as one of them turns. And it's one of the ones that's been ripped in half. And with a raspy voice, it rises up. And you see the two other Skrug undead rise. And the two halves begin moving toward the three of you and your unconscious Quinn. As these gaunts have risen. And I would like you all, even though you're unconscious, Quinn, I would like you all to roll initiative.
I'm at disadvantage, right? For initiative?
Let's see. Yes, all ability checks. No. Yeah, we'll say that affects your initiative.
Okay.
And you're at disadvantage as well, Fenris, because that's a dexterity-based check. And Quinn, I'm going to say you're at disadvantage because you're unconscious.
5.
16.
Cursed?
4.
And Orion.
18.
All right. I knew I was forgetting something. I got to roll initiative, too. Uh-oh. Who had that? Would you have 16, Fenris, and you had 18, Orion?
Correct.
Oh. All right. Okay, Orion, you are up first. You've got two of these things that are at about 9 feet tall, and two that are about 4.5 feet tall, as they're just upper bodies. And they're all within 20 feet of you.
How close are they in relation to one another?
They're spread out enough that they're probably about, they're all within 10 feet of each other.
Between, basically in front of me, between two that are probably closest to me, I would like to there's 4, you said?
Yeah.
All right. That will cost me 2. I'm just gonna Astro Bolt the closest one then.
All right, a half one or a full one?
Go with a half one.
All right.
With a 17 plus 21.
Yes, that hits.
Alright. For 6 damage. Force type.
All right, what does it look like as you blow this half gaunt away?
The Astra starts to crackle and build up around his hand, and just instinctively it starts going through. He just points his palm towards its open maw as it's screaming, and then the Astra pulses out of his hand and bursts through its open mouth and leaves a gaping hole as the head falls over and the whole thing ceases to move.
Spectacular. The other remaining 3 are going to move forward to attack you. And I'm going to say this just so you guys are aware of how I'm going to do this. The one that's attacking you, Fenris, if it gets a critical hit, it will split its damage between you and it'll still roll double damage, but that's going to get split between you and Quinn, who is over your shoulder. So a full-sized gaunt is going to attack you, Fenris. And that is going to be, as it's attempting to rake its claws at you, 17.
That hits.
As it has, with one set of its claws, it reaches out, swiping at you, and that is going to do... Whoops, that's the wrong die. That is going to do, 7 points of slashing damage. Oh,
Okay.
wait. Do you have the +2? Did you add the +2 to your...
Yes.
Oh, so that's 17 with your +2?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Question: does that hit translate as 2 saving throws or just damage?
What do you mean?
Well, it. You said that
You're not
it's
unconscious from 0 hit points. You're just unconscious.
You're
right?
just unconscious. You're not, like, saving throw unconscious.
Okay, so I just take the damage.
No, you don't take any damage.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said that.
You only take damage if it rolls a critical hit against Fenris.
I'm sorry. I missed the critical part.
Oh.
I apologize.
Nope, Fenris is taking all the damage as he's kind of holding you up there. So that's that first one. The half one is going to attack at Kirst, and it's going to do so with disadvantage. And you are lucky because one of those was a critical hit. The other one, it turns out to be an 11. So does that miss you? Okay. It starts to move forward, and one of its 4 arms crumbles underneath it, and it swipes and gets nothing. The one coming at you, Orion, seems to kind of emerge from the spot where you blew the other half one apart. And it seems to be just looking at your hands where the traces of Astra still remain. And you watch as it seems to kind of pull Astra from the air around it. And it just seems to just pulse for a moment with Astra energy. As it takes an attack at you. As it does so, it slips on this glassy surface, and it kind of spins sideways and opens itself to an attack of opportunity as I rolled a critical fail on that attack. So take an opportunity attack against this particular gaunt.
But I can use a spell still, right?
Sure.
22 then.
That is definitely a hit.
7 force damage.
It slams into him, but he's still standing. And it is now... It would be Quinn's turn. Quinn is unconscious, so you will not be going. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I do have a countdown die in effect.
Oh boy.
I just turned it down 1. As it is now... oh wait, sorry. It would have been Fenris who goes next. You're still not going, Quinn, but it's Fenris's turn. I skipped over you.
All right, so I want to set Quinn down, keeping myself between her and the gaunt that's attacking us. And then if I do that, will I still be able to attack? Is that going to spend my action, or is that a bonus
No,
action?
you can set her down. It's not even a bonus action.
All right.
We'll call it an interaction.
All right. So then I'm going to swing with my war axe. I'm going to two-handed at it.
All right. Which one are you going at?
The one that I was engaged with.
Oh, yeah, the one that attacked you.
Yeah, that is a 20.
A modified or not?
No, modified.
Okay, yeah, hit. Everybody but cursed dice like them. Well, Quinn's dice aren't doing so good either.
That does 12 points of two-handed slashing damage.
Okay. Yeah, you slam your blade into this thing, and you actually cleave away one of its arms, and your blade for a moment gets stuck in the side of this thing. And as you yank it free, some of its entrails spill out. But it's still standing. Now we pass Quinn, who's unconscious, for real this time. And Cursed, you're up. There is a half gaunt directly in front of you.
Do I still see?
Actually, you see your husband up on his broken arms, his head smashed in. It's his upper torso. It's your husband that's attacking at you.
Yeah, and so she is just going to immediately just kind of drop to her knees and just try and like crawl towards him. And just saying like, I'm sorry, it's all my fault, it's all my fault. And she's just like reaching out towards him, trying to comfort him.
All right. As it's going to take an attack of opportunity for that, what Fenris and Orion, what are you thinking as you see this happen?
She's definitely lost
Does
in the situation.
Does a 13 hit you?
Yes, just. Yeah.
Even with the +2? Temporary +2?
Isn't it just the Mancers who get, or the
No,
Treaders
everybody got the +2 from the magical effects of the fire.
Oh, okay, I thought it was just the Treaders. No, then it doesn't hit me.
Okay. So, yeah, your husband, as you're climbing towards him, you see him rake out, and it's not claws, it's most of the flesh is gone from his hand, and it's bone that's trying to swipe at you and attack you. And I'm gonna say take a point of inspiration for that, because even though much to your physical detriment, that's very much playing into your character. As we are back at the top of the order, it is Orion's turn.
I'm gonna point my palm at the one directly in front of Cursed, and I am going to launch a what's it called? Pushed. I'm gonna push my Astral Bolt to try to attack. There's still 3 standing, right?
There is one that you're engaged with currently. Oh wait, no, you did a ranged attack on it, didn't you?
Yeah.
So yeah, you're good. Yes, there's the half gaunt in front of Cursed, and then the two full gaunts that are standing.
So I can push it, and I can target up to 3 creatures within range, and it's making a separate attack for each one. So I'm gonna go for the one right in front of her first. No. I'm gonna go for that was a half in front of her, so the other 2 are largest.
Yeah.
So
They're
I'll go
what?
with
Did you say large?
larger than
They're
map.
larger. They're still classified as medium if that has an effect on the spell.
No, I just meant.
Okay. Yeah, they're full size. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go for the first of those two. Probably not with a 13.
13 hits.
Okay, I'll take it.
Oop.
That's 5 force.
And that was the one in front of Cursed.
No, I missed on that one. It's one of the other two. Probably the next closest.
The one you hit, or the one that Fenris is engaged with?
Whichever two. I get to attack all three, so whichever one was probably closest to me next, and then the one after that. And then one more. Yeah, definitely 23. So 8 more. 8 force damage on that last one.
So the last one is the one that's in front of Fenris. What does it look like when the spell destroys it?
It's going to hit it right through the throat, and you can just see, like, as it's coming, and it just, all life ceases and it just slumps over. And he would yell, "Wake up, woman!" And
the remaining gaunt, you see as it just kind of cocks its head, and you see just the faintest little bit as a couple of the broken bones seem to mend themselves. And you hear that as they snap into place. And I'm going to determine 1, 2 is Fenris, 3, 4 is Cursed, 5, 6 is Orion. Fenris, it's going for you. As it shambles over to you, and it does this and seems to draw Astra, and just kind of, you just see this as it attacks you. 15.
Nope.
Swiping at you, but swiping too early. It misses. And now, Fenris, it's directly in front of you, and it's your turn.
So I just kind of look at it and I chuckle. I smile as I just grab the blade of my axe, and my hand glows red, and I pump red Astra into, just give it the blade starts to glow red. And I haul back and swing. That is a 13.
That hits. Just.
All right. So, and that does 12 points of damage.
What does that look like?
Wait. Hold on. Well, okay. Well,
if you
just for effect, it does 16 points of damage.
Okay. What does it look like as you completely decimate this thing?
So, after
you don't decimate it, you destroy it. Decimating it is destroying like 10%, or all but 10%. It
rears back. Fenris rears back after he just kind of chuckles at it, and he just yells, "You're not them!" And it just cleaves right through his neck, and just starts hacking into this thing with his axe, just screaming, his tears come pouring down his face. "You're not them!"
Countdown timer moves one more for Quinn as we move to Cursed, who you're still seeing your dismembered husband attempting to swipe at you and cursing you out as you're trying to move toward him. What are you doing?
You see these, as she's kind of apologizing and crawling towards him at the same time, you see these yellow Astra kind of glow around Kur's hands, and at first they're just like this form, but then slowly they begin to form these tendrils that are going to go around, who she perceives as her husband, and is actually going to pull him closer to her, but she's actually going to try and incapacitate, where is that? Restrain him using a boost. So he needs to succeed on a dexterity saving throw.
That is a 4, so I'm gonna say it doesn't succeed.
So she does pull him closer, and she's just like crying and just like, I'm sorry, and but she's just trying to get him, and she's going to like cradle his head in her lap and just like kind of rock over this figure while he's incapacitated with these energy tendrils.
All right. Back at the top of the order, Orion. Kirst is cradling tightly the last half gaunt that remains, apologizing profusely to it. And yeah.
He would be like clapping his hands to get her attention. Hey girl. Hello. Hey. What's gotten into these ladies?
Are you going to take any other actions?
The 4 are...
The other 3 are gone. They're dead.
And this one still has some life in it?
Yeah, it's struggling against her hold.
I'll walk over and look at her, and she's not acknowledging me in any way, so I'll place my palm on its head in a way that's facing away from her and unleash an Astral Bolt.
I'm not even going to make you roll for that. What does it look like? It's dead. What does it look like?
Whatever decomposing flesh and whatever was inside of its skull splatters out the back, and there's not much left to hold it together after all this, and whatever was giving it animation has left it, so it kind of like probably even more falls apart into her hands and loses a lot of its weight. And I took care of it for you.
Cursed.
We get going now.
Cursed, for a moment, you see, almost as if he's in a haze, you see Orion step into your field of view. Place a hand on your husband's forehead. There's a blast of Astra, and your husband's head is disintegrated. At that same moment, the hallucination also disintegrates as you suddenly become once again aware of your surroundings. And you realize you are cradling the upper half headless corpse of a partially decomposed Skrug. But you have full memory of what you saw just a moment before.
I think in that instant when she thought that Orion had just further killed her husband, you can see like this, her almost like begin to glow with this red Astra, and she just kind of looks at you like with this anger, this rage. But then I think she just kind of closes her eyes and she shakes her head and she looks back down, and then in that instant all the red Astra in her just kind of dissipates, and she looks just in horror at what she's been holding on, and she just kind of like scrabbles away as quickly as she can, just like trying to get this gunk, this dead goop off of her. She's like scraping it off, but she's not saying anything, but she looks just horrified.
Quinn, you slowly start to gain consciousness, as if awakening from an instantly forgotten nightmare. For the briefest of moments, you feel like you're waking up in your own bed, wherever home was once before. And as you open your eyes, you see first the face of whoever it was that you were sharing your bed with. But with a blink of your eyes, it becomes one of the blank staring eyes and bloody faces of one of the people killed in the wreckage. And with another blink, you realize you're staring into the dead, lifeless eyes of one of these gaunts lying on the ground. One of these dead, who you never even saw rise, these dead figures that, to your mind, were you thought was your crash revisited. As you groggily come to.
So Quinn would kind of just kind of get up and just sit with her head in her hands, just kind of rub her eyes and just mumble, "Is this real? Am I really here? Is this real? How can I tell? How can I ever tell?" It just then just looks around kind of wearily. There's, at this point, it's a kaleidoscope of, like slides. Real, 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 not real, maybe real, who knows?
And Fenris, any image you had of those dead twins has vanished. Your tremors have stopped. Any disadvantages you had opposed, any of you that you had imposed on you, are gone. Whatever it was seems to have passed. And as you look up, you can see that there is this purple, seeming almost bioluminescence, seems to have extended inward into this darkness, the 60-foot diameter hole. And you can see depth in there, as it seems to be beckoning you forward.
So Fenris just kind of looks around and surveys what's going on, and kind of reaches to help Quinn stand up. Y'all all right? I got a feeling this isn't going to get any easier.
Quinn. Sorry. Quinn kind of flinches when Fenris first extends his hand and just grasps the hand and kind of gives it a firm squeeze to figure out if it's real or not. Just stares intently at Fenris to see if it maybe shifts into something else. But then I suppose that she accepts the help and gets up shakily.
So are you all going to get up and move into the heart of darkness?
Yeah, start heading that way.
You feel nothing more than anything you would normally feel walking into a completely dark circle of blackness on an alien world, seemingly in the past. So as ordinary as that may be, that's what you feel as you head in. Once you begin walking into and you pass through the threshold of this, it becomes clear that you are in a tunnel of the earth that seems to be made of perfectly smooth glass. It seems to be formed through by something that passed through at extreme velocity and extreme heat. You walk for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. No sign of it getting any lighter, but the circle behind you grows smaller and smaller. You feel something move by your ankles. Something almost like brush. Something just kind of shifts past your ankles. And before you can even react to it, you suddenly feel something brushing against your arms, your shoulders, your chest, your back, your waist, running around your face, your hair, your neck. It's as if hundreds of cold, almost wet but not wet, slimy-ish sort of tentacles are completely wrapping themselves around you, particularly your limbs. And they seem to kind of just move across your face. A couple kind of dip into your ears or up your nose. And suddenly you feel yourself lurching forward at a tremendous velocity. But at the same time, you don't feel any this grasp doesn't relent from whatever's holding you. You just seem to suddenly just shoot forward at tremendous velocity, as if you were in a vessel that suddenly took off, blasted off, and it lasts for but a moment. And when you seem to slam to a stop, you feel as these slimy tentacles recede away from you. Behind you is nothing but blackness. In front of you is a 60-foot diameter steel wall. All along its surface, carved into it in concentric patterns, are various angles and lines and circles that seem to have no coherent meaning, but they coalesce around a 6-foot circle directly in front of you. And as the sound, this kind of recedes of these tentacles behind you, all of these runes, these lines, these circles seem to begin glowing in purple light until they get to this 6-foot diameter circle. And as it goes around the edge of this circle, it suddenly irises open. And just inside the door, you see the bridge of a starship. You see the view screen just beyond the control panels and 3 or 4 seats. And through the view screen, you see on one side to the right, you can just make out the edge the familiar edge of Bastion. To the left of the view screen, you see the shattered moon of Verloren, with Harbinger piercing it. And as you're taking in this sight, one of the seats turns around, and there is a Skrug in full battle armor sitting there. And he looks at you, and he says, "Welcome." And that's where we're going to end. And there's another episode of the Bastards of Bastion, episode 5, Invasive Species. For anybody wondering, and the main reason I want to bring this up to clarify, because we are playing a playtest of Harbinger, the effects that I had you all roll for, and that you were all but Chad was succumbed to, I actually used madness rules from the DMG. You actually got straight up what you rolled. The only thing I didn't do was use the rules for time, because that was 10 times 1d10 times 10 hours that you were under those effects. And Dwight can tell you, I hate madness rules that have long-term effects.
I don't. I love them.
There was, in our Out of the Abyss game, I think I had like two sessions or more where all my character could do was say tunnel, 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 and I was a spellcaster. I couldn't cast spells, so I was hoping to get you with something really good.
My favorite part was when you came out of it and we all spoke to you by saying tono tono.
Yeah.
For like 10 minutes or so. Yeah.
So, that's episode 5 of Bastards of Bastion. I would like to give each of you a chance just to tell me what you thought. Maybe if you incorporated anything new from version 5 into your character that manifested today. Any thoughts about the game, and finish up with where we can find you. And this time we're going to start with Chad.
Hi, I'm Chad Smith, the other Chad, and over at Absolute Tabletop. That's where I found this lovely game. So maybe you could head over there, the Absolute Tabletop Facebook group, and join us. And these folks, well, at least most of us are over there. And I'm playing Orion now in version 0.5 Orion. And I now have access to all the red spells because I had taken a yellow 0 spell. And now that there is the Voidborn race, that gave me that spell, so that gave me another spell option. So I have all the red spells now, and that's his specialty, if you haven't noticed. So that's fun. So I got to incorporate that, and I'm looking forward to seeing when we go up another level, choosing which specialization he's going to go with and everything. You can find me down here, I guess, Facebook, YouTube, those things. Chad Smith, not the drummer of Red Hot Chili Peppers though. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Any thoughts, feedback on the game this session?
Oh man, that was cool. It was interesting to see these other characters, and we haven't all necessarily shared why we're where we are and stuff like that. So it's like little pieces over time coming together, not just for the regular audience, but me as a player as well. Is piecing together these other things for these characters that I'm getting as a viewer, that my character isn't even completely aware of what's going on in these people's heads. So it's pretty cool to have both sides of that and see things coming together, but at the same time having to admit it when it comes to my character and pretend like that's not even going on. But man, it's definitely, I guess, roller coaster is the best way I could put it. Time, space, we're going all over the place. And I'm not a huge follower of the show Lost, but I got a sense of that, where it's like every time we get maybe a question answered, there's like 3 more questions. So it's fun. I like it. I like the intrigue, and seeing where you take us.
It's kind of funny that you say that, because I didn't set out intending to model or even be inspired very much by Lost with what was happening. But in the last 2 weeks, my son and I have started going through, we're binge watching Lost for his second time, and it's like my third time. So I'd be lying if I said wasn't some influence, conscious influence this time. I'd say in this last session in particular. So it's interesting that you say that, because you're not off. It's intentional. Megan.
Yeah, I'm super enjoying this game. It has gone a completely different way than I thought it would, which is awesome. I love that, and it has this like horror thriller vibe to it, which is my absolute favorite genre. So I'm having a blast with it, and like Chad said, like the slow reveal of the characters through things that happen to them instead of just through straight dialogue is always really, really cool to see. So yeah, I'm having a blast. This is so cool. And
I would be lying if I didn't take I've been heavily influenced, because I don't really have a strong horror background, but I've played in quite a few of Megan's games and Harbinger games, and Megan has actually influenced some of my style when it comes to horror. So obviously I know it's your jam, but yeah, you've definitely influenced me from playing in a few of your games, and seeing how you do that as a game master has played a part in this. And the person directly responsible for me wanting to use madness charts, Dwight.
Yeah, no, this is a very different game for me, and I'm really enjoying it. Again, we've mentioned this a couple times, but in the group that Jake and I play in, everybody just goes around killing everything and trying to make each other laugh for 4 or 5 hours at a time. So the slow roll here, and the relative lack of combat compared to what I'm used to, I'm really enjoying. I'm able to get into this character's head, and I'll be honest, I was a little nervous when I started this, because I don't get a chance to do a lot of role playing. So I was looking forward to that. So I kind of took an easy character that I thought wouldn't be too hard to get into, but the game itself is allowing me to kind of get into him and figure out what's going on with his head, and that reveal of that, seeing those kids, and just trying to, I knew that was in his background, but to get to play out that memory was kind of cool, and I really enjoyed that.
And finally, Alexa.
Well, I was very much a spectator, but it was interesting. I wasn't expecting that to happen. I thought D100, oh yay! I never rolled one of those before. It was definitely interesting. I know it may sound boring, but I especially enjoyed the descriptions in this episode, the visuals that you created. I was very curious to know what that thing was. I mean, at this point, I'm sure we all have theories, and I can't wait to discuss them next episode in character. But this was very interesting. And I'm sorry that Chad's natural 20 prevented us from a glimpse into his own dark past. Hey, maybe next time you'll go mad as well. And the interesting thing about the newer version of Harbinger is that the background and race that I picked kind of just helped round out the character. They fit very well with what backstory I had come up with, and it just added a bit more depth, and that was kind of cool, in a comforting, warm kind of way. So I'm excited to see what happens next time on our next stop to the present, hopefully. So thanks for tonight.
I appreciate all that feedback on the game, because sometimes I worry. This game's a little bit different than some that I've run, and I worry that I'm not giving you enough to play off of. But I've been paying really close attention to the second campaign of Critical Role, and I've actually been really heavily influenced by Matt Mercer when it comes to making sure that I'm describing scenes, giving you the sensory stuff. Drake and I've talked about it on the podcast early on about, using the 5 senses, but it's easy to forget that. And so I try to play into that as much as I can, but just as much credit goes to the 4 of you, because you're giving me that little extra that I need to go off of to see how you're reacting to things. I was able to make that final scene. It was what it was because 3 of you failed. You experienced a bit of madness for some reason, and because of what you saw. I mean, Megan did something, Kirst did something that was very in character, but could have gotten you killed. And if the dice had landed differently, could very well have gotten you killed. So I very much, it's a give and take. I'm glad you're all enjoying the story. I don't want anybody to think this is this is railroad. I kind of almost feel like I've railroaded you guys a little bit. But we've still got a handful of sessions left. And if you thought things have been going in weird directions, it's, well, just wait. I'll just say that much. And as for a couple notes real quick on the Harbinger playtest. Again, you can check out Absolute Tabletop on Facebook. Check out the Absolute Tabletop official group, which is where a lot of games are hosted out of and where I put up interest for this game. I also have been branching out on Twitter, which is how Alexa was able to join us, because she found out about it on Twitter. You can go to harbingerrpg.com. You can sign up for the playtest. And I want to make sure I encourage Alexa, Dwight, Megan, and Chad that if you have any feedback on this, particularly on these new things, to use that. We're all a part of the playtest. There's a place you can go to give feedback. And if you join the playtest, you can give feedback that goes right to Matt, Tim, James, and Barker for them to help fine-tune the game. The only thing I really incorporated directly out of the new version 5 was I used the Gaunt stat blocks, which were new creatures. We've known about Gaunts in the lore from the beginning, but there's actually... I only used the Gaunt Risen, but there are 3 types of Gaunts. I knew you guys would never survive a Gaunt Bone Blade, so not at level 2. Yeah, so that's all I guess that's all I have to say about that. So we will be back here sans Fenris next week, barring any other unforeseen circumstances. We will be back next week with episode 6. Be sure to head to Twitter. Check out all of their handles down below. You can follow them, see what they're up to. Check out Alexa on Twitch as well. If you like to see story-based games, a lot of Dark Souls, and you've been running some other stuff lately too. I pop in there once in a while when I can. And Megan and Dice on Ice have some amazing things coming forth very soon with the Cryfoth. And of course, you're going to see a lot more games coming up on the Mini Terrain Domain channel here on Twitch. So consider using your free Amazon Prime subscription to subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date, or just click that little heart and give us a follow. With that, a huge thank you to everybody that tuned in, everybody that's watching the VOD, to my 4 awesome players here for just coming along with me on this pretend journey into dark science fantasy. I'm Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, and as we like to end things here, Mitadeh.
visitor.